Welcome to the 5th episode of the Blow the Whistle podcast. My name is Britton Ross. Today is April 29th, 2025. We talk about all things Sooner sports and the biggest headlines from around the biggest leagues in sports. And today I'm joined with Kevin Daniel. Kevin, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great today. I mean, we're almost done with the semester, and I'm ready to get rolling.
Yep, we are in dead week, but sports are in full swing. The biggest things so far right now, NBA playoffs. Thunder sweep the Grizzlies. I know you're not exactly a Thunder fan, being from Dallas, but, that's so far the only thing we've got. Thunder beat the Grizzlies in 4, and the Cavs beat the Heat in 4. Honestly, just total domination from both of those series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and outside of that, you're just looking at a bunch of 3-1 leads. But it's incredibly impressive what the Thunder were able to do, just start the series strong, go out there and say, hey, how about we, set the record for largest victory of, any first-round game, ever. Mm-hmm. And keep that momentum up. And, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of criticism that comes of it from, the Grizzlies shouldn't have been there and the play-in and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a 1 seed versus an 8 seed. This happens a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even on the Cavs and the Heat, Game 4, 138-83 Cavs. And, we were over at Coach's Corner watching that on the TV, and we're like, man, that is an ass kicking.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
That's so demoralizing. It didn't even look like Miami was really even trying.
No, and especially them as a franchise have just kind of, I don't want to say they felt, they've been in limbo, I think, for a good couple of years. They made that sort of, conference finals run a couple of years ago, and ever since then, they've just been that kind of perennial play-in team, them and the Hawks. Just oh yeah, that's going to be our play-in matchup to see who gets the 7 and 8 seeds.
Yeah, especially after, they lost Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't seem like they're there anymore. And it feels like they are headed very quickly toward a rebuild.
Absolutely. It's a team that lacks at least forward momentum at all.
You had mentioned everything else is a 3-1 lead. You have Lakers and Timberwolves. Timberwolves lead that one 3-1. Warriors lead the Rockets 3-1. Celtics lead the Magic 3-1. Knicks lead the Pistons 3-1. Pacers lead the Bucks 3-1. The only one that's not a 3-1 is the Nuggets and Clippers, which is tied at 2. And, man, those games, I don't know if you saw, the putback dunk from Aaron Gordon to win Game 4, electric.
Yeah, and it's chaos in the West right now.
Yeah. But with that series specifically, the Thunder will play the winner of that series, which goes to a Game 6 at minimum. And I believe Game 6 would be Tuesday of next week. So the Thunder, having swept Memphis on Sunday, will have off at least until, I believe, Thursday, which is massive in the NBA.
Yeah, every bit of rest, every day to either keep working, and ultimately what also helps with these, longer series is it's more game film on the other team. Yeah, 4 games will get you a fair bit to prepare, but a 6-game series, you're going to know that team inside and out, what they can do to win, what, they can't stop, what they can stop, all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I was actually wrong. Game 6 of the not the Lakers, wrong LA team, the Clippers and Nuggets, Game 6 will be Thursday, so Game 1 of the second round, bare minimum, would be next Saturday. So the Thunder are looking at a minimum of 6 days off, which is honestly kind of unheard of in the modern-day NBA. But, man, that Nuggets and Clippers series is going to be electric, and it already has been. But everything else so far has just kind of been the Warriors and Rockets have given us some good games, but it hasn't been a great series. Knicks Pistons kind of the same way, but Pacers Bucks same thing, where it's all these games are closer than I had originally expected them to be, but the series themselves still aren't quite as competitive as you would like. And when I was talking with Landon a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how the NBA needs this to be a great playoffs just for the league as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, and a lot of it that is kind of taking a broader view of looking at those series of, it's 3-1, so nothing's really happening, when I think some people don't often look into the actual games themselves. No, those Celtics and Magic games have gone, down to the wire a lot, and those have been particularly interesting to watch. Again, also shout out Magic's social media team. They'll make you smile no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the games have been fantastic, but the series, they I mean, let's be real. Most of these series are probably going to be done in 5. The only ones that I think might have a chance to go 6 or longer would be the Rockets and Warriors, and maybe the Lakers and Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like, I think all of the 3 series from the East, I think, are all going to be done in 5, because now, I mean, you're going back home with the higher seed, when the team with the 3-1 lead is going back home. I mean, I think all 3 of those, the Pacers, Knicks, and Celtics, I think they're all going to finish them out in 5.
I completely agree with that. And you also just look at the teams that they're facing. I mean, Bucks, you're now without Dame.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of GG's on your season at that point.
Yeah.
Pistons, the big thing for them is, they've kind of lacked the whole playoff experience thing, not winning a game for...
Since 2008.
Yeah, since 2008
That's
until now.
That's crazy.
Hey,
I was 9.
Yeah.
Actually, I would have been 8, because I would have been... Oh, wait, no. It was the Eastern Conference Finals of 2008 was the last time they'd won. So maybe, depending on when that would have been, I probably would have actually been 9. Yeah.
Okay. If that was spring 2008, then I would have been 3 and then turned 4 in August.
All right. Well, you didn't have to age me like that, man.
But I thought so. That's where we were taking it.
All right. Well, I think the series. I think we'll get longer series that go 6 or 7 games once we get into the conference semifinals. But yeah, this first round just hasn't been.
Yeah, I mean, but also that's kind of, I guess you could say, by design.
For
all of it, as it's a playoff, it's made
to
each round get your higher seeds closer and closer, and
the expandedness of it with the play-in, and I don't know, the play-in and like the NFL expanding their stuff and the college football expanding their playoff, everything just kind of feels a little bit watered down, and so once we kind of weed out some of these teams that probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, then it gets good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which really kind of sucks, because this is supposed to be like the best of the best. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we saw the same thing with the new college football playoffs, where it's just, who was it? I think it was Clemson. They got killed by Texas in the first round.
Clemson got killed. SMU and Indiana.
Yeah, they all of the bottom 4 teams that all had to go on the road for the first round, they all lost. And they weren't necessarily... Some of the games, the score was close, but when you watch them, those games were not competitive.
No, and the whole expanded college football playoff is just interesting, because from the way that I look at it, the way that they... From what I looked at it, the way that they kind of set it up was to say, we don't want to have to make that Florida State decision ever again, so we'll just... put a lasso around all the teams that we say are, mildly deserving of being in here, and let them sort it out.
See, my thing is I don't feel like in any year there has never been 12 deserving teams. 8 would have been fantastic, I think. I think 8 is a great number. But, I mean, you see it even in college basketball, where they have 68 teams make this tournament. You still have it where it's like, well, team number 69, what separates the 68 and the 69 ranked team? Like, there is no difference. So you're always going to have, the same thing with Florida State being 13-0 conference championship, winning the ACC that year, and then being snubbed from the playoff because their quarterback got hurt. I mean, what separates them from, even if they were in this new playoff, 13 versus like the 12th ranked team? There's not enough difference there to me.
That's kind of a lot of what this expanded playoff does, is when you have those teams who are going to try to have that fight of, we should have been in, we shouldn't have been the last team out. It's like with college basketball, not that many people are going to throw a fit over, your last 4 out, because there's already 68 teams. And, you're getting down to percentage points of percentage points with some of this data, that it's like the differences just aren't there.
Let's get back on topic.
Back on topic.
Outside of expanding playoffs everywhere, who do you have winning the NBA Finals, by the way?
I'll admit, again, I said I'm a Dallas guy. The Thunder have really impressed me this entire season. Every time I've watched them, it's the pace. The pace of that team to just kind of say, we're going to do what we want, try to stop us. And, again, the playoffs is doing its job, because I'm looking at the 2 teams that swept, the Thunder and the Cavs. that's a fun matchup just to even think about. And, with the Cavs, who are kind of that team where, a lot of the offseason hype's around the Celtics. They just won. They have the big name. They have the big, Jordan Brand signees. But here come the Cavs, this little, roster of, I think what some people would have called years ago misfits of just pieces they've gotten through the trades.
That's a great way to describe the Cavaliers, because it feels like there's no, obviously you have Donovan Mitchell, but outside of that, I don't feel like there's any massive just stars. But each player, similar to the Thunder, where they have SGA, but each player has a very designated role that they play, just in that system.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like bringing that Saban, hey, do your 1/11th of your job, and then putting that on the basketball court.
Yeah.
Every guy knows their job.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. So you're picking the Thunder to win the finals? Is that what I'm hearing?
I concede. Yeah. I mean, and I'm looking through the rest of the West. I mean, that second round between either Nuggets or Clippers, whoever gets that done, could be interesting. But right now, it's hard to say anyone but. I'll say this with confidence: it's going to be a team from the West.
Okay,
that's my
I could definitely see that, because even, I mean, everyone's got the Celtics coming out of the East. I don't know. I don't know how the Cavs and the Celtics played against each other. I don't know what their record was this year, but man, it just feels like the Celtics are just going to get it done. And I don't know, is that that's just me going off of vibes. You know what I mean?
I totally understand. Regular season series, they split the regular season series.
2-2?
2-2.
Oh, that's going to be a fun matchup when they get to the conference finals.
If we get to that at the conference finals, that's going to be a fun one.
That's going to be so good. But yeah, this Nuggets-Clippers series, massive for the Thunder if that game goes 7, because at that point, it's let's see. I think it's Sunday would be game 7. So it would be, I think, Tuesday of next week, which is the 4th of May would be the Thunder's next game.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to double check.
In a league of, back-to-backs, one game after another, slowing things down is just kind of throwing a wrench in everything. And the interesting part of that to see is, how do the Thunder come out of that long of a break?
Mm-hmm. Well, they did break for almost a full week. I think it was 6 days or so during the play-in tournament. And then, but even kind of at the end of the regular season, they were resting Shea. Mm-hmm. They were resting J-Dub. Maybe not for the last few games, but maybe 2 of the starters would take a game off here or there. And actually, I think for the last game of the season, I think all 5 starters didn't play for that last game. But Game 7 of Nuggets-Clippers would be Saturday, May 3rd, which means I believe the earliest that the second round could start if that series goes to a Game 7 would be Monday, May 5th.
Cinco de Mayo. How about some basketball on Cinco de Mayo?
So that means the Thunder would have off from, they swept Memphis on the 27th, April 27th to May 5th.
That's absurd.
What is that, 9 days?
Somewhere around there.
8 days?
8 days. Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be fun once we get past this first round. But yeah, the games are good. The series are not, which kind of waters down the point of the games. If it's Lakers Timberwolves, that's gonna be a great game 5 tomorrow. But Timberwolves leave 3-1. It just kind of feels like it's their series to lose at this point. Yeah. And it's like that around the rest of the league, too. So, I don't know. I kind of feel Landon and I both thought the Celtics were going to go back-to-back.
Really? I could see that happening just by sheer force of will.
Yeah. It's just the Thunder are so unproven that it's hard for me to be I understand they had the best regular season in Thunder history at 68-14. which their previous record was 60 wins, and they broke that record by 8 games, which I think there's only been 10 or so teams in NBA history that have won 68 games. When the Warriors first won their first championship in their dynasty back in 2015, they went 67-15, and everyone thought they were inexperienced back then. So, I mean, hey, you never know.
No, but I like what you were saying about unproven. I mean, that is probably going to be the biggest test for the West, is how your 1 and 2 seeds are just such young teams that have the raw talent, but the playoff experience is kind of what's not there. Versus, this kind of lineup in the East, especially headed by the Celtics, who are wanting to go back-to-back, of all these teams who have just been here before.
Even the Heat were in the finals, and a lot of those same players are still there. They were there, 2022 against the Nuggets. The Bucks obviously won. The Pacers were in the Eastern Conference Finals not that long ago, I don't think. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns on the Knicks, the Pistons, everyone's young. No one's got experience there. Celtics going back-to-back, and I think the Magic are probably the youngest team in the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure. So, I don't know. One thing that does kind of grind my gears is when people say that the Thunder are just so young. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's in his 7th year in the NBA. They've won a play-in game on the road, a winner-go-home elimination game. They won it on the road without Chet Holmgren 2 years ago. And then last year they did sweep, the Pelicans in the first round. So... And then a really hard-fought, 6-game series with the Mavericks. So it's not like they're just completely inexperienced. Like I feel like the Rockets are more inexperienced than the Thunder are.
That's the big thing against the Rockets is
they have
how young
none
inexperience.
They
haven't been there.
None at all. Anyway, Thunder are bringing it home. They got it. I'm sure of it. And if they lose in the finals again, if I have to see them lose in the finals again, I will cry. All right, we're going to switch over. Different playoffs. National Hockey League. I'm a hockey casual, but there are a lot more closer series in this league than in the NBA, except in the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference, all 4 series are 3-1, which is Hurricanes over the Devils, Capitals over the Canadiens, the Panthers over the Lightning, and the Maple Leafs over the Senators. So, I mean, everything's probably going to just work itself out over on that side. But the West, honestly, kind of just looks like a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. No, it usually is with what we've seen from these teams. I mean,
and
from the Dallas and Stars perspective.
You're a Dallas Stars fan, so please.
They're no strangers to just having to go 6 or 7 series upon series upon series. That's what it's been like the past 2 years when they face the Avalanche or the Golden Knights. Obviously, should the Stars close out the series, they have a 3-2 lead. They'll play either the Jets or the Blues, who are tied at 2. And those are kind of newer faces for them in the playoffs. It's been a lot of Wild, Golden Knights, Oilers, Avs, Kraken a little bit last year. And seeing how those matchups work would be interesting. The Jets are real interesting. Again, last year was
I'm a hockey casual, but I don't think I've ever seen the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think I've ever seen them in the playoffs.
No, last year was a big thing for them to finally get in it again because they had just this great regular season, so much fan engagement, and they get there and they're playing their rivals from the West in Vancouver and just completely drop it. So that they're the 1 seed and they're really looking to get it done this time.
Yeah, I know the Stars have kind of been hit or miss on some of these series the last couple of years. So I mean, as a Stars fan, as they're trying to navigate through the West, I mean, what are you? Obviously, I know you're watching the Stars games, but what are you kind of maybe looking out for some of these other series from the Knights and the Golden Knights and the Wild, the Kings and the Oilers, and the Jets and Blues? What are you kind of looking out for?
I think really it's just looking at how to counter the Stars on a lot of those teams, like how the Stars can counter the other team's great players, because consistently what you've seen, probably one of the biggest issues with the Stars is defense. Ottinger's doing great in goal, a lot of times you'll see games where it just kind of compounds. They start giving up some sloppy goals, and then suddenly, they're down 5-2.
Mm-hmm.
And the offense isn't producing what they need to. They have an offense that they have guys who can score. They have a lot of guys who can score. It's keeping them healthy. That's been a huge thing for the Stars is injuries. But a lot of it just comes down to defense.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few Stars games, and like the games that they lose really bad. Like even in this series, the 2 games I've lost have been 5-1 and 4-0. But then whenever they win, they have 2 overtime wins, and then last night 6-2 over the Avalanche. So I mean, it's really close wins, but really bad losses. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how any of the Stars fans here are okay. I could not live like that.
It's a bit, it takes some getting used to, and just kind of taking things as they come. Aiden, Tyler, and I have had several good conversations about that kind of stuff and the realities of being a Stars fan and having to deal with, is it going to be a good night or a not good night at all?
Mm-hmm. Who do you see kind of winning the cup? Because I don't really know which teams are good. Obviously, I can just go off the seedings, but like I don't know who's good and who's not. So tell me who's good. Who's going to win it?
I'll do my best. I mean, as much faith as I have in the Stars, if they have to meet the Golden Knights in the conference finals again, Knights might have them there. But even then, we could be seeing a Oilers Golden Knights matchup, which would be its own kind of thing. I don't know if I can give you a complete prediction right now. Looking at all of this again, Eastern Conference is kind of settling itself out. Panthers could make another run. I don't think I'd probably go with the Hurricanes. They did make some big moves. I'd take them as not necessarily a dark horse pick. But
maybe just one that not many people are
many people are going to go with.
But you wouldn't be surprised if they
I wouldn't be surprised or at least if they get to the Stanley Cup from the East. Haven't watched enough of the Jets to know if they're really going to be that team to make the run.
Mm-hmm.
That bottom half of the West is very favorable the way that the Knights and Oilers have just had all that experience, had all the conference finals and cups, and it's just kind of Stars up at the top of that bracket. So Stars Hurricanes I think would be kind of fun. Mm-hmm. It's not the big Vegas versus Toronto matchup I think a lot would want. But that's also just me who'd love to laugh at watching the Maple Leafs lose.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it back here on campus. OU baseball has been so strange to watch. I don't know why. They can't seem to figure it out. They lost the series at number 10 Georgia this week. They did win Friday night's game 8-6, and then lost. Or actually, I believe this was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. Won 8-6 Thursday, lost 10-9, and then 6-3. Yeah, I mean Kyson Witherspoon did really well the way that he usually does. Seven innings pitched, 1 run, 8 Ks in game 1. But I mean, you've been covering this team all series. You've talked to Skip Johnson. I don't know what they're 30-13 now, 11-10 in the conference. Like I just don't know. It seems like every week they'll be really bad, and then the next week they figure it out and they'll do really good, and then the next series they go back to being really bad.
That's exactly kind of what's happening, and it's the bats don't know what they're doing on a week-to-week basis. You'll see them, they beat Vandy, and then they go on the road for another, big series win, and then they bring it back on like a midweek, and they lose that pretty badly, and it just kind of all spirals out of control. So it's consistency. You're just not seeing consistency. I mean, you have everything you want from that bullpen, from the arms that are in it, not just, Kyson and Malachi and Cade Crossland, your starters, but then you start going deep. Dylan Crooks has been good.
Oh, he's been fantastic.
He's been fantastic. Jamie Hitt has really turned it around this year compared to what we saw last year where he almost felt scared to even throw it in the strike zone.
Oh, man, I was working for Sooner Vision across the street for a couple games, and every time he would come in, we would all kind of go, ugh.
Oh, I was sitting there at the same time. It's like, okay, is this where this game's going? He's really turned it around and kind of showing why he was as highly touted of a prospect as he was. Again, he's a tall dude and he's a lefty. Those are two things that any pitching coach wants to see out of a guy. Even, further deeper, I mean, Michael Catalano has been, he'll come in every now and then, and, for how young he is, he's making a name for himself on the team, which is the important part. And there's several other guys I could go on to about just how deep that bullpen is, even if it's, an inning or two sometime in some of these conference games.
Mm-hmm. The bullpen seems like it's pretty okay for the most part, but I mean, yeah, the bats are just not. Well, I don't know, because they'll lose 10-9 and they won 8-6 and then they lost 6-3. Like, it's just, it seems wildly inconsistent, and it seems like you never know what team is going to show up.
Absolutely. And it's not like this is a team that doesn't have guys you can hit or doesn't have pop. There's some great guys that when they're in that zone, they can just hammer it. I mean, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. Dayton Talkie, I mean, he had 2 home runs on Thursday. Of course, now he unfortunately got injured, so they're looking at replacements at first base. Easton Carmichael's been touted for his batting ability since the time that he got there. Kyle Branch has looked really good. Trey Gamble's the one who's really been impressive because he's a hard guy to pitch against. Mm-hmm. The way that having him and Jason walk at 1-2 for most of the season is just this deadly combination of guys that are hard to pitch to because they both draw a ton of walks.
So what do you think, going back to Dayton Talkie? I didn't even see what happened. I just heard he got hurt. I didn't even see what happened. I don't even know what the injury is. What do you expect them to do for replacing him?
At that point, I think it's just next man up. From what I've seen, he was at the rest of the games against Georgia in a boot. At that point, it's next man up. See how they can kind of adjust the lineup. So they'd gotten some different, sort of batting orders. They've been experimenting with that a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that may be, where you plug in someone else. They went through something similar a little bit earlier with Scott Mudler going down, but they at least had Carmichael where they could just pop him in at catcher and throw in a different DH.
Yeah. This weekend, they host Ole Miss, a rematch of the 2022 National Championship final from 2022, which did not go OU's way. But I don't know how Ole Miss is this year, but they gotta figure it out. And I feel like I've said this on this podcast for literally a month straight of just they'll be good and then they'll be bad and then they'll tweak one little thing and then they'll be good and they'll win the series and then they'll lose a midweek or something, which the midweek last night was canceled, the game against Wichita State, because we have been in pretty constant tornado watch weather for the last 3 or 4 days. But they host Ole Miss and then they go to Kentucky and then they host Texas. And honestly, if they don't win at least 2 of those series, I don't know if you can even call this season a success for the first year. You know what I mean? It's still been okay. They're 11-10 in the conference, but for your first year in the SEC, you would like to be a little bit more above 500, I would think.
No, I would agree. It has been an interesting team, especially for that, kind of consistency sake that I was talking about, where generally in these kind of series, they'll beat the teams that they're supposed to. Mississippi State, South Carolina, Missouri, taking those series. Granted, those are your bottom 3 teams in the SEC right now. Mm-hmm. They've had some reach. Vanderbilt's somewhat high up. Vanderbilt and Ole Miss are pretty much neck and neck at the rankings right now. They have the series win over Vanderbilt. It's can they do something similar again against Ole Miss? But then you look at, Georgia, who's on that same kind of playing field. And yeah, they had some close games, but couldn't get the series out. Kentucky is pretty much right there with them with, Oklahoma's 11-10 in conference. Kentucky's 10-11. So that's going to be an interesting series because these are both teams that are practically level with each other on an SEC record-wise.
Mm-hmm. And then Kentucky at home is 15-10, and OU on the road is 9-6.
Okay, that throws a little bit into it. So
That's a cause for concern.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
If they don't win that series, that's probably going to be your easiest series you have left. Now that you've already gotten past Missouri, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how far do you see this team going realistically with how wildly inconsistent they've been?
I mean, I'll have to look at the kind of formatting again.
They
were able to host a regional last year. I don't
Yeah.
know if I don't think they're going to host this year.
No.
I mean, they'd probably be lucky to make it out of one of those. Maybe hit a super regional. But that's probably, unless they have that crazy hot streak.
Mm-hmm. Which could start.
It could happen.
Especially now that there's no more midweeks currently scheduled. But, if you win, maybe you do get that win against Kentucky, and then you win your senior, series, your last series against Texas. If you can win those two series back-to-back before heading into the SEC baseball tournament, I think they could start trending in the right direction. The problem is every time they start doing that, they fall on their face the next game.
Yeah. A series win over Texas would be
Massive.
That would be massive. At least, especially for the spirits here in Norman. But probably something mentally of here's the number one team in the conference and for several weeks team in the nation, and regardless of where they're ranked at that time, because I know Arkansas, LSU, and Tennessee are knocking at the door a lot of times for that. Regardless of where they are, that's still massive for momentum.
So speaking of Texas, OU softball swept the I believe they were the number 3 ranked Texas Longhorns. They beat them 7-6, 7-2, and 9-8. Game 1 and 3 were some nail biters that did not need to be that close. OU had a 6-0 lead in game 1, and then only a 1-run win, and then same thing in game 2. I believe in game 3. I think they were up 8-0. Texas came back. It was 8-6 at one point. It might have been 8-7, and then it finished 9-8. So they got moved back up to the number 1 overall rank in the country in softball. 42-5, 16-5 in conference play. They're the number 1 seed for the SEC tournament, which starts, I believe, in 2 weeks. I mean, we've been saying all year that this team, this is a down year. This is a rebuild year. And somehow they're still, right there. But I don't know how far they can go.
I completely understand and kind of agree with that little level of uncertainty. And I think that's also just kind of what comes with this team this year, with there being that much new. That you don't have the predictable names of old that the last 4 teams have been able to rely on, of saying, oh yeah, no, she's gonna she was great last year, so she's gonna stay great this year. For so many of these girls, it's a whole new team. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this team. It's kind of that opposite from baseball, where you don't worry about the bats too much. You have some power hitters. Gabby Garcia's been on a run.
Unbelievable as a freshman. The what she's doing as a freshman has been absolutely insane. I don't even know if there's stats that I can pull up because she's a freshman.
I mean, since it means something, there were times earlier in the season where she was setting stats close to Jocelyn Allo, and that means something.
Oh, yeah.
But it's different. It's kind of the opposite of baseball. You have your bats that are usually pretty consistent. It's always the pitching. It's always the bullpen, to where it's, usually if Sam Landry's not out there, it's a wild card game.
Mm-hmm. Which is weird because Kirsten Deal was really good last season, and it seems like she's or even the last 2 seasons, but it seems like she's regressed a little bit, which, I guess could happen whenever you need to take on, more of a, now that she's an upperclassman, more of a leadership role and all that. Real quick note on Gabby Garcia. Sooner Sports does have one little note. 2025 as a freshman. This is as of April 25th. Named SEC Player of the Week March 18th. Tabbed D1 Softball Freshman of the Week March 11th. The week of March 11th, as well as the SEC Freshman of the Week on the same day. Hit a 2-run home run in the bottom of the first inning of a 9-6 win against number 15/16 Mississippi State on April 20th. She became the first OU freshman since Jocelyn Allo in 2018 to homer in 5 consecutive games. Earned her second SEC Freshman of the Week honor April 8th after going 8 for 10.
Yeah, just crazy. I mean, I don't know how much there is to say about that.
Going back to the pitching, Kirsten Deal maybe a step back. But yeah, Sam Landry. Isabella Smith, who I believe is a senior who transferred in, pitched really well on Game 3 going for the sweep against Texas. She pitched really well, but, like, she got pulled after 3 innings. And that's something that I've seen Patty Gasso do before in previous years, where it's, okay, let's take out the senior. We're up 8-0. Let's put in the freshman. This is still a high-stakes game, even though the moment isn't quite as, intense with an 8-run lead. But it's still a high-intensity game. Just to, I don't even know what the right term is, but to just build experience of pitching in a big moment. I've seen Patty do that a few times. I mean, what do you think about that?
I definitely understand the reasoning behind it with getting that experience. And, it you hear about that, and it does almost kind of seem fitting for Coach Gasso, the way she is kind of that program builder who's super focused on, not just, getting as many good players in and out and having that, this was a irregular offseason for probably how active the transfer portal was, but actually saying, if you want to come to Oklahoma, we're going to give you reason to stay and build you into a better player while you're here. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that does include, saying, we'll give up a few runs, we'll make this a closer game than it needs to be to get someone else out there so that they know. And it gives them film. Mm-hmm. It gives, more film to dissect and watch over, and, more ways to coach and tweak, especially pitching-wise, when there's so many mechanics at play in just, the way you throw it. It sounds on brand, really.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm pretty sure I've just straight up seen Patty Gasso just like, even whenever she had the insane senior class last year. I think 2 years ago I've seen her basically just start just freshmen and sophomores for a game. Like, they already won the series. I think they already like clinched like the number 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament that year. So that she started a game of just freshmen and sophomores.
What it does is it shows confidence.
It shows confidence not only in them, but in your program, the team that you're building for the future. But, it also gives, your starters a rest. And it really just, if you win, there's really no consequences in it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, at that point in the season, they already had everything kind of on lock. So, I don't see anything bad about it. And especially now coming down, they only have 1 series left at Florida this upcoming week. And then it's straight after that. That's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then the SEC softball tournament starts Tuesday of next week. So, it could just be making sure everybody has playing time, 1, so they don't transfer out, but then 2, in case there's an injury or someone does need to get their number called, they've been in a big moment before. You know what I mean?
Absolutely understand.
Yeah. So, I don't know how far they're going to go because their pitchings just hasn't been similar to baseball. It just hasn't been super consistent. But, yeah, I know you cover more baseball than softball, but at the end of the day, it is still really hard to look at a Patty Gasso coach team and go, they're not winning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think they'll still end up in Oklahoma City because they're easily one of the best 8 teams in the country. Maybe they don't win the national championship, but I think they're still going to be there. Mm-hmm. And either way, you're guaranteed 2 games because it's a double elimination bracket once you get up to Oklahoma City. So maybe they don't win it this year, but, man, that entire team is basically sophomores and juniors. So if they don't win it this year, if they get that experience, you can be damn sure they're going to win it next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgot what I was going to say. But, just getting to Oklahoma City, yeah, they're kind of just saying what you were saying. Definitely top 8, and the inexperience or, how young this team is definitely going to play into them very well. And this is my original point, that, it's not, it's not really going to be cause to be super concerned or upset should they not take home that national title. I don't think they need to put themselves in a position where they say the season's a failure just because we didn't win it all.
No. Honestly, this season is probably a success either way, whether they win it or if they don't, because they're still going to be the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, more than likely. Obviously, we'll see how this weekend goes at Florida, because I think Florida's probably in that...
Florida's ranked number 7, just dropped down from number 6. They're 41-11 on the season.
Right. Okay, yeah. Texas A&M is the 2 seed in the SEC tournament right now.
Okay.
Which is kind of strange, not gonna lie. But it is what it is. Oklahoma is 16-5 in conference. Texas A&M is 14-6, and then Tennessee is 14-7. And then I think Texas would need to sweep whoever they're playing, and then OU would need to get swept. They're 13-8 now at this point after being swept by OU. So I mean, it's either going to be OU, A&M, or Tennessee is the 1 seed, and I don't think either of them are going to drop below the 3. So I mean, it's all kind of pretty much set the way that I see it.
Yeah. Well, and I think more importantly, you look at those 3 teams, OU, A&M, Tennessee. I think those 3 give you a real good indicator on who you're probably going to see hoisting that championship up in Oklahoma City.
If it's not, I would love to say OU wins a 5th straight. I don't think they will. I really like Tennessee this year.
I'm right there with you.
I really after they came to Norman and I got to actually watch them, I was like, man, they are good.
Yeah, they just have that factor with them and in them.
They what Tennessee looks like this year is what OU usually looks like from what I've seen, which is honestly deserving, I think, because Tennessee has been a program where they've been kind of right there. Actually, I think Tennessee's beaten OU for a national championship. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was like 2012. No, they lost to Alabama in 2012. Tennessee won it in like 2014 or 15 or something like that, and they beat OU for it, I'm pretty sure. Actually, no. What it is I think OU beat Tennessee in 2013. That's what it was.
That would make sense.
I think that's what it was. Because I know in 16 and 17 they played Florida and Auburn, and then in the 4-peat it was Texas, Florida State, and then Texas and Florida State. So,
Yeah.
Am I right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Florida State kind of having more of a down year. They're down in 9th in the rankings, and even that I don't even think you could say down year. They're 42-7 right now. But at least on the big board, the USA softball rankings, they're down in 9th, still top 10, still really good. But to just look at where they've been the past kind of 4 years, looking at that, it's definitely a change for that program.
Well, yeah, they obviously it was 2023 and then 2021 they were runner-ups, but then they won it in 2018. So I mean, they've been kind of a program that's been there for the last decade or so.
Could still see some magic out of them.
Yeah. Do you think it's an advantage? Obviously, Oklahoma State's not going to make it to Oklahoma City this year. They've been very subpar. But do you think there is an advantage to having the tournament in Oklahoma City? Softball capital of the world. It's where the Hall of Fame is. That's why it's there. But do you think that there is an advantage to that, recruiting-wise, getting the best players or anything like that?
I don't know if I can say recruiting or actual play-wise, but in terms of having your fan base as a presence, absolutely.
Yes. That's no question.
That's no question. I'm sure if you talk to some of the recruits, sure, that's a part of the pitch. That, hey,
it's got to
play
be
that. It has to be part of the pitch.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of the can't always look at recruiting as a one-size-fits-all thing. Every single person has that one little thing that will make them pick a school over another. For some of them, it could be having the College World Series and the Hall of Fame and, now the Olympics be half an hour north of them. Others, it could be other things. It could be Love's Field. Who knows? It just kind of depends.
Love's Field is so awesome. I've been with Sooner Vision at work. Like, I've been kind of through, like, down there on the field, and, like, I've seen they have a full-size infield. That building that's out in left field, or down the left field line, it's a full-size infield that they have, like, the cage things that they can pull back, and it becomes batting cages, or you can, like, pitch as well. But it's a full-size infield.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is something.
Yeah. No, it's so wild. And then they still have Marita Hines that I think they use for practice. But I think
practices, camps.
Yeah. And I know they've had some other tournaments where, if there's like 5 or 6 teams that are here in Norman, they'll put the non-OU teams at Marita Hines, and then OU plays all their games at Love's Field.
Why wouldn't you when it's that nice?
Oh, dude, it's honestly, Patty deserves it.
Yeah, oh yeah, and the statue.
And the statue out front, well deserved. She took a program that literally they played at Reeves Park. She said that I think it was, I can't remember if it was for the opening at Love's Field, but they said that whenever they were at Reeves Park, they didn't have enough room in the dugouts, so like some of the extra players would have to go like sit on like the stands, like in the crowd, and like they would maybe have like 30 or 40 people show up to the games. And now you have a palace that fits 4,500 people. They just broke the attendance record. I have it right here pulled up. OU softball sets attendance record, sweeps number 3 Texas on senior day. Love's Field single game record attendance, 4,609 fans for a softball game.
That's crazy.
That is wild. They need to figure out, once they do the stadium renovations across the street, they need to figure out how to get OU softball to play a game in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They just played a game of banana ball at Clemson Stadium.
At Clemson, 81,000.
Yeah.
They've played volleyball in Nebraska Stadium. They had well over 100,000 there for that one. Because that one already fits 90,000. Throw in floor seats.
Yeah. So once they get that figured out, the problem is I think with the way that because it's like 220 down the left field, or just down the lines, so you would have to be like backed up to the brick wall, and then it would only be like it would be kind of close, but then the field, because it's grass, it like curves like this for the runoff, so they would have to do like some major modifications to it.
Dimensions would be interesting to figure out all of that. I know with the banana ball, they just kind of played it as it is and said, sure, we'll have, a porch of 190 for left field.
Well, so what's interesting, and I think this is something that they could do if they really wanted to, I think they could figure it out. The Los Angeles Dodgers played, I can't remember, it was like more than a couple years ago. It was like 2005, 2006. They played a game in the LA Coliseum, and they just put up a net, and it became kind of like the Green Monster in Fenway. That would work.
It works.
It works.
It would work.
And they got really close to selling that thing out. So I don't know, but yeah, they need to make that happen where they play across the street in the football stadium. That would be so fun.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think they would have to have both dugouts on like the same side, which is kind of a problem.
Probably, yeah.
It's low-key a problem, but
yeah.
And then you have to figure out like, okay, well, where are you gonna put a makeshift bullpen, which
this is why we don't get hired on the logistics. There's entire corporations that'll
that's above my
run
pay
the numbers.
Grade.
It's
above my pay grade. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. That's all the time that we've got. Thank you for watching this episode of the Blow the Whistle podcast. Remember to leave a like and a comment down below, and we will see you next time.